Hello, welcome to something slightly different. So this isn't exactly Build Showcase. This is in fact a brand new series in a way. It's sort of going to be a substitute slash, in my opinion, an iteration on Build Showcase. And it will hopefully, in the hope that it goes well, will also represent the continuation and or evolution, even if they still persist side by side, of the Build Showcase videos. And that is good or bad, where we go through specific overclocks, maybe even specific anything. Could be tier 5 upgrades, could even be weapons and grenades, and try and figure out if they are actually good and bad. And this is mostly going to come down to the stuff that I don't have builds for. It will factor in things that have been featured in builds. So for example, today we're talking about Ice Storm. The secondaries I use though could be seen in previous or upcoming build showcases. That's perfectly possible. But what today is about is figuring out Ice Storm, trying to understand whether or not it's actually good or bad, and either way, trying to understand its strengths and weaknesses, no matter what it actually is objectively. Now, this is the first attempt at something that I've been stewing for a long time in my head. I always saw this as the way forward with this series, but this video specifically, I would say more so the choice to start doing these videos now and the choice to do it on Ice Storm as the first entry was inspired by specific comments, which I'm going to show you now. These were on the my ultimate overclock tier this video, which I found a lot of fun. I love that thumbnail still. Anyway, I got some response to Ice Storm. Ice Storm being one of the ones that I placed in the tier of worse than nothing. Which I want to point out, I think I'm already somewhat changed on that. It's an interesting overclock. It's more extreme, I think, than people realise. Maybe. Or maybe more extreme than I realised. So, these comments come from... have a look here. Mr. Air Pumpkin and Tarotis 777, and I'm going to, before we get into gameplay, instead of sort of other preamble like showing off the build per se, it's also going to be about these comments, trying to understand them, respond to them based on how I saw Ice Storm before doing what I'm going to do today. So basically how I see Ice Storm right now. Prior to recording this, the night before recording this, I did use Ice Storm for at least one mission, and it went really well. So my position is already on the fence, actually. But either way, so this is the original comment from Mr. Air Pumpkin. The case for Ice Storm, first of all, it's unstable with no substantial downsides. Well, that's not entirely true, is it? First of all, we got a big ammo loss, which I would say is the biggest penalty. The loss of freezing power and loss of chamber pressure is negligible. I'll agree with him on that. He does go on to say that, I believe. Less freezing power is objectively significant. I know that there is an agreement that Cold Radiance is doing most of the work, and I think that is absolutely true, but less freezing power is still less freezing power and should not be... we shouldn't pretend like that isn't a significant loss, especially when it's a loss of free freezing power. That is a lot to lose. So I cannot agree that it doesn't have substantial downsides. It does. Ammo is the biggest one, obviously, though. Cold Radiance and Sticky Ice, I believe it's actually called the Ice Path in the code, gives you all the cooling power you need, so the loss in freezing power is always a non-factor. In other words, Tuned Cooler is overrated. Now, I agree with that. Tuned Cooler is overrated. Although I think the understanding is sort of shifting towards that, like, for most people. So it's almost becoming not overrated. It's becoming sort of understood as to what it actually is. The loss of freezing power is significant against, and I think Tarotis actually goes on to say this, it's significant for flying enemies. People think of the cryo cannon as some kind of anti-air gun. It's definitely not. It's only because it insta-kills flying enemies. They don't get frozen that quickly, and when you're losing freezing power, that's especially bad. Yeah. It does enough extra damage to do more total damage even after the ammo loss. I'm not going to question the maths on that. I mean, I don't know that to be the case. But it wouldn't surprise me because damage isn't the cryo cannon's thing. although he does go on to acknowledge this in an indirect manner. Faster pressure drop rates, basically unfelt, no one's ever cared. Yep, agreed. Meanwhile, the buff to damage and doing extra kinetic damage to frozen targets means this overclock immediately cleans up the trash you free so that you can focus your attention, your axes and secondary ammo on high value targets and LSTs you frozen instead. I'm not sure what LSTs actually is. HVTs is things like web spitters and acid spitters, so LSTs I have to assume is bigger things like oppressors and praetorians maybe? I'm not sure. Ice Storm creates a more self-sufficient driller that can push forward into a swarm instead of being having backpedaled, instead of being on the back pedal, waiting for the damage over time effects to play out, nor be utterly dependent on teammates to shoot frozen trash for him. Trash is driller's job. The best OCs kill trash, not simply debuff it. I would say that is antithetical in my opinion to the cryo cannon itself. The cryo cannon is simply the best at dealing with trash, not necessarily killing it. Where the killing it comes into play is from your secondary and your drills. So I do not believe that inherently makes Ice Storm good. Is the fact that it overrides what the cryo cannon is inherently meant to do. In fact, I would say that is arguably a weakness of Ice Storm. However, I can't deny that it does make Driller more self-sufficient. Unfortunately, it also makes him very, very ammo hungry. Builds that focus on freezing and then using a secondary to clean up are actually far more ammo efficient overall, which is strange when you consider the fact that you are more often than not using both of your weapons to deal with any given enemy. And yet, somehow, it feels far more ammo efficient than Ice Storm does. Maybe it's because I was overusing it, I'm not sure, and that's something we're going to delve into today. Something I also want to figure out is whether or not people use increased ammo or increased damage in tier 4. I always assumed it would be damage because if you look at the difference, we shoot down to 12, which is not... The total damage is higher with the damage and the ammo. That is just clear, I think, so that's always confused me. I should probably look at some Ice Storm builds that could help clear that up. But yeah, so I kind of disagree with most of what he says, although he's not completely off base. I think the idea of self-sufficiency is valuable, although I do not believe this is the only way to achieve it, and I believe it is almost a fundamentally flawed way to achieve it, given that you're deciding that the best way to be a self-sufficient driller is to basically overturn the entire point of the cryo cannon, which is extremely self-sufficient, but just not in and of itself. You can be a self-sufficient driller through other means with a cryo cannon. You don't have to rely on your teammates. I wonder if this guy has actually heard of the wave cooker. No offense. After all, you did inspire this video, Mr. Red Pumpkin, so thank you for that. The second reply comes from, or the reply to that, and obviously it touches on, it's entirely focused on the same topic, sorry. It's from Terotis777. Yeah, I can't for the life of me understand the hate for Ice Storm. Pretty much ignored it for a long time because every tier list put it in low or trash tiers. Then one day out of sheer boredom I gave it a shot and holy shit, I never looked back. Now this is an interesting perspective, and I'm going to come off as a bit of a hypocrite here, but I've never drawn my opinions from tier lists, and I don't think I'm a hypocrite because that's not what I expect from ours anyway. We do them for fun, really, and to sort of get our opinions out there, but not to dictate how people should think. We use language that would indicate that. Sometimes we use dictatorial language, but it's usually just for fun. I can't say I really relate to receiving my take on a certain overclock from a tier list. I don't think that's actually a wise way to form your opinions, unfortunately. I think substantiating them is perfectly fine. In fact, I made that tier list video in response to Waste and Lazy Maybe's video, but they confirmed some of my own opinions, but I already held them. That's the thing. And I think Ice Storm is one of the ones I disagreed with them on. I held my ground there. I didn't change it just because someone else said that it was bad. I think it's fine to be reinforced by those kind of things, but I don't think your opinions should be formed by them. So I think that is kind of interesting. I always disliked Ice Storm through personal experience of actually using it, and then sort of just having bad experiences with it. And it was never buffed at any point since I've used it, so I'm not sure what could have changed, even though it felt like something had changed when I played with it last night. So I don't really know what to make of that. Always liked the cryo cannon and its incredible stopping power, but I wished it could be more than just that. I agree. Cryo relies too much on drill secondaries and teammates, while I want the bugs dead right there and right now. Now, see, the problem I take with this is it's a pretty big fundamental one. That's what the cryo cannon is. The other weapons aren't. The other weapons don't need your teammates to help them necessarily, or really at all. There is synergy, of course, especially with the cryo, especially with the sludge pump and your teammates, but they are more self-sufficient, especially the sludge pump. So I don't really understand the issue taken with the cryo cannon that it isn't self-sufficient. That's simply the philosophy under which it was designed. It's a freeze rate. It freezes enemies. It doesn't kill them in general. Cold Radiance does 80% of the job as usual, so it doesn't change that much. Ice Storm instantly deletes trash mobs. Melts tough enemies like Shellbacks or Betsy. I can attest to that. That is true. Does melt Betsy, although it's not too common. And you can still freeze a Praetorian or an Oppressor, then finish them off with axes and or power attacks. Bacterias may be a problem though. Yes. Abusing Cold Radiance with them is risky, especially if you try to jump at the face of a Trijaw charging its shots. That's where you take good old Heavy Hitter and Heat Mod with you. Need to watch ammo economy as well, but that's nothing new for hard-hitting overclocks anyway. Ice Storm rules, give it some love. So that actually is useful, because what I was looking for was some kind of actual direction on what kind of secondary people tend to use with Ice Storm. And Heavy Hitter with Plasma is absolutely in the cards for me already. I am a big fan of that idea, so we're going to go straight for that. Maximum damage, Burning Nightmare, per charge shot, no, cooling rate, and overcharged Plasma Accelerator. So this is our setup for Ice Storm. Should probably show you. Here it is. So with Ice Storm, I have increased charge speed because I think that's far more valuable for something that's supposed to be doing lots of DPS. And apparently we don't need the freezing power. Ammo, obviously, in tier 2, it's going to be ammo. If it was fine with this ammo mod, I would consider range. I think that could have some value, but I don't believe that this should be used. Tier 3, charge speed or increased flow volume. Well, I don't personally know. I would actually probably assume this. Charge speed could just end up wasting ammo, I think, with the cryo cannon, even with Ice Storm. So, okay, I think we're going to go with charge speed there. Tier 4, this is the standard, and I've only had worse experiences when I've taken ammo, so I'm pretty comfortable with this. Even though using this setup has still spelled like bad for Ice Storm, it was still better than when I used it with ammo. Tier 5, obviously Cold Radiance. We're not going to have any benefit from Fragile. Fragile is a strange modification. In a lot of ways, I think the Cryo Cannon's Tier 5, 5th tier of upgrades needs to be completely reconstructed from the ground up. Cold Radiance should arguably be a part of the base weapon, possibly with a Tier 5 that enhances it. That's sort of my view. Anyway, so this is our Ice Storm. This is our standard heavy hitter fire EPC. We've got axes, obviously. I don't think there's really a better choice there. Drills with ammo and damage, that's how they should be all the time, but that's especially good with cryo as well. Satchel charges don't make sense to really pay attention to. Standard perk setup. Pickaxe doesn't really matter either. You're not actually going to gain a frozen damage bonus from this. It's still area damage. Anyway, in terms of the missions I've got lined up, got a point distraction, which is great for Driller, and Lithphage Outbreak, which could be interesting. I would assume that Ice Storm would actually handle Lithphage enemies quite well. Hopefully we don't have too many contagion spikes, and then we wouldn't have to deal with that many of them, but I still want to test it against those enemies. Now, I'm going to obviously try and keep the actual gameplay tight, so you're not going to see any of the fluff, although point extraction intros, as soon as you step out of the pod, sometimes the most intense parts of the mission, so you're going to be seeing that in just a moment. Okay, wait, where are we again? Fungus Box. Okay. Right. Once we grab that. Okay, 2 contagion spikes is fine. Alright.
We've detected an area filled with the quarks, and you get to bring them all back. Extract the quark from within the walls. We send in a specialized heavy lifter.
I know I'm meant to be testing specific overclock, but I'm always going to be using the environment to my advantage. That's just how I operate. Okay, Stingtail. Besides, we can already see, very ammo hungry. Like, in my opinion, undeniably so.
Bosco, find it. Wonder what slot they're serving in the campaign. Best their fleet down.
Obviously, we could use drills. They're perfectly fine at dealing with grunts, but I don't usually feel that need with most other Cryocannon builds. Okay, nice.
If only
All right.
deep rock.
I actually found the way it deals with guards to actually be really nice. Respectably quick at dealing with guards, in my opinion. That's something that I would say drillers' primaries aren't great at, is guards. When it comes to the trash clear, bitters, other grunts, no problem. But grunt guards, pretty much always there standing. In fact, I believe there's only one way of building the sludge pump that allows it to actually one-shot guards, which is pretty impressive that it can do that at all, but yeah.
Support. Explosive device.
Oh, gotta be careful with that. So I'm definitely going to do a elimination. I want to see how that fares, because I would expect fine, personally. I guess there's just something to say about the differences between weapons and what you want to use them for, because this is not what I would. This is not how I see the cryocannon. Basically, it's probably a good way of explaining my take on this overclock. If I want to be good at dealing with HVTs and even high HP enemies, then I'm probably going to be using the sludge pump with some kind of combo build with either gamma contamination or blister necrosis. That's immediately where my brain goes.
Focus fire here.
But there is something about this that is a little bit pretty satisfying, but I do not feel like I'm as efficient as I usually am as a driller. Okay. Jesus.
I sense danger.
Honestly, Stingtails are they're a bit much, man. They represent a massive spike in difficulty in and of themselves, like genuinely. I think they're a fairly well-designed concept, but I don't think a single enemy should change this much, personally. And that's okay. That's not always how I felt about them, and that's fine. I'm allowed to have fluctuating opinions on these things. And right now, I do think they are a bit of a disruption to the game's difficulty.
Even the Glyphons are already embarrassing. Die, you double-jointed freaks! Die! Look there! Shoot it!
Okay. fine.
We need a cleansing pod.
Cleansing equipment is on its way.
Oh, what?
Not again.
Cleansing equipment is on site. Time to stop the rock box in its tracks.
Joe, get to work.
Well, you don't need to see me cleaning a contagious spike. Alright, I might have accidentally shook the beehive.
Incoming.
Okay.
You got him.
Oh, what's going on here? What's all this about?
Cleansed. Keep up the good work, and we'll have the rock box under control in no time.
Jesus.
Terra Troy eliminated.
Oh no. Oh dear.
The rock box is contagious.
Oh no.
Explosives fire. Rock box goo bomber down. Dive on first. Flares ain't ready. Whack-a-mole.
Yummy. Right, so what we've observed is that it does its job well. Ammo efficiency is obviously a big question. I would say the most important question here, because if it's efficient, then it's good. As we've seen, it's good at what it does. I would say it's actually acceptable. It's just unfortunate that I feel like I could do a lot better with a lot of other builds. And that's often what burns me with a lot of builds, where it's just like, I feel like I've found some of the most efficient builds, and people suggest other builds to me, and I'm just like, I just don't have as much ammo, and that's, for them, that's fine, because they can get the job done and then get resupplies, and they're even doing this in multiplayer, but
Extra limbs or something.
I don't know, I think there's something wrong with me. I just obsess over ammo economy so much, despite having all the resupplies to myself. But I don't always get all the nitro. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was pretty efficient, I must admit.
Come here, you blind. Step one. Cover rockbox foils with foam. And stock. Clean here, please.
It seems fine against rockbox enemies. Yeah.
Ready to blow.
Well done, team. All contagion spikes eradicated. We're showing no further sign of rockpox in the cave.
Go fetch.
Oh, nice. Thank you, I'll take that. I think they're trying to hurt me.
Players, not ready yet.
Well done. All objectives completed. Hit the launch control.
Brilliant. Let's get out of here.
And we will send in the drop
Okay,
pod.
so what did I learn from that? I don't really know what to say.
Minehead launch.
I guess it's just kind of alright.
When Minehead is
Um,
secure. Hang in there.
It's not the craziest thing I've ever seen. It handles whatever you want quite well. I guess it really only falls apart when you try and use it for everything. If you try and just, if you know what you're going to use it for and you sort of stick to that, I think it can be quite ammo efficient, I'd say, based on this experience. And a presser. Now that's, oh okay, it's doing that. So do I want to use it for grunts and HVTs, or do I want to use it for HVTs and big enemies? Probably not both. Probably not both of those pairings. Especially because in most builds, as driller, the secondary ends up being your HVT killer. There's these things like spitters and spreaders, and Macteras often at a range, and especially Macteras where Ice Storm makes doing that a bad idea, makes shooting Mactera with the cryo cannon a bad idea. So in a vacuum it does have weaknesses, but they are balanced out by secondaries, I'd say, and your other equipment, which I guess the guys who made those comments didn't really acknowledge that. To me, they seem to be implying that it makes the cryo cannon itself extremely self-sufficient, but the reality is no weapon truly can be. All they've done is make it so that it can kill things on its own, but it can't kill everything because it shouldn't kill everything because you don't have the ammo for that. In a way, I think some of the people who defend it are sort of forgetting that, to a certain extent, every single weapon is dependent on another weapon. No weapon can do everything, and there's no point trying to make them do that. So I do once again question the point of diverting the cryo cannon to its original purpose, but the Overclock exists, so I think it's fair to give it its time in the spotlight to see if it can be its own thing.
Drop pod arrived.
And I'd say it is its own thing,
Drop pod departing in T-minus
from what I'm experiencing here.
Water.
Oh, do I feel a need for a different secondary as well? I don't think so. I think this is actually a perfectly valid secondary. This heavy hitter with fire is actually working perfectly well.
back in.
I mean, I guess something that we could consider is rival enemies. They are a staple of the game now. They have mission types themselves. They have a fairly common mutator. There are events that involve them. Do we need to consider rival enemies? Well, I can't remember how it goes. I don't think the rivals are weak to ice damage. I just think they just changed it so they can be frozen now. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I don't want to do a I don't want to do an industrial sabotage, but as per usual, if I can get an elimination with Life Presence, that's perfect. That is like the ultimate mission for me, because eliminations provide the mainstay boss enemies of the game, and also provide actually fairly frequent, quite intense pressure waves. By my observation, they are larger pressure waves than the average mission throws at you. And also, if it has Vital Presence, then suddenly you're covering even more ground in terms of enemy types. Also, this is just ridiculous. Look at all this crap. I want to do that, but it's not a good test for Ice Storm, really, is it? So that has Rival Presence, but also Mactera Plague, which is not a smart thing to choose, in my opinion. So I'll get back to you. Maybe we should try taking it into a multiplayer scenario. Why not? I could have equipped Field Medic, maybe. That might not be a bad idea. Also, I think they can hear me.
I'm done.
Not something I'm usually comfortable with. The only way to do that would be this. Also, keep in mind things like me being a client now. I mean, it's something that's already a bad sign. Right, where are they at? I wouldn't be going that way. This is the way. Okay. I'm just getting that more kite. Alright. We'll push down this way. Damn it, I just tried to pause. Okay, the breeder itself. Need to find that.
Bunker up, team. Swarm incoming.
In this case, Ice Storm's not going to be able to do anything for us, so I'm just going to have to wait for it to open up.
Swarm! I repeat, swarm!
It's trying to deflate me.
I guess part of what those guys said in their comments indicated that it's not really for multiplayer, almost, in a way. Being more self-sufficient. So there could be this could be a bit of a misguided effort. Whoa! Hi, fellas. Dang.
The last of the wave is approaching you now. Keep it together.
Oh wow, we've got a legendary 3.
A miner is on the way to join you.
A fellow compatriot of mine. Yaki St. John. Looks nice. Like that look. Goodness me. This guy just put down a really stupidly placed resupply. Not that it wasn't justified in this room. It's just where he chose to put it. Right, Menace is something I haven't done yet. Right, that's fine. I would probably use an axe or a secondary. Deal with that. Future. So I'll give my verdict after this, but this is really looking up, actually. I feel really bad about what I've been saying about Ice Storm.
I'm totally loaded.
I also feel no need to change the secondary either. This is a very perfectly good EPC to pair with it.
Just take your sweet time, old lady. I've got all day. You want something done right? You gotta do it yourself.
So that's how you should use the mule. Just bonk it down, use it, let them have it. I mean, they were being pretty greedy there.
Getting supplies.
But I wasn't going to keep her for long. Right.
Ow!
Okay, we've got a big horde of Mactera, which is not my forte. That is immediately something to point out. Can't really use Ice Storm against Macteras. he's a deposit spammer. I don't even know if I can do that on the controller. No. No. Alright, we've got Swarm approaching. Looks like the engineer knows this is a good place to hold up. It's a good sign.
Incoming! Smoke him if you got him.
Over here!
Totally axe that Glyphid Stingtail down! Holy fumbling son of a mud golem!
That probably felt quite wasteful to both of us, I'd imagine.
Hold the drop pod when you're ready to leave.
Watch your fire! Gutless mud miners! Time for fireworks!
God, I haven't played in like a random team in a very long time. Oh, sorry about that, mate. I'm probably coming off as quite aggressive, because I am being quite aggressive.
Thinning out. Take out the rest of them. Stat.
Not doing all the work for me, really. Which is usually why I guess maybe that does confirm that solo is actually good for these tests and showcases. Oh, basically.
Secondary objective complete.
Okay. Well, it's the host's call now, but I wager there's something else down here.
Definitely not made for walking.
A call lock? That is not what I expected. Alright, I'm gonna be smart here. I'm gonna resupply these guys in a good location.
Roger that. Supplies are coming.
I gotta watch the overheating. Let's take that thing out. The flares are recharging. Extinction. Axe on, axe off.
But why am I I'm stuck in something at the moment? I don't know what that was about. Right, it's probably going to kill Steve. Oh shit! I thought that might happen. Although I think we're going to be fine considering how well these guys are doing. Nice. Alright. I'll wait for them to get me up and then start the evacuation. See you then. Oh, I'll see you now. Although this is really just EPC stuff. That's not EPC stuff, that grunts.
Grabbing ammo.
Take it. Getting more ammo.
Alright.
Donkey, come here.
The mule is for depositing minerals.
Rock seriously
Rock
needs to
and
invest in
stone.
some better equipment. Okay.
He's the host, right?
Mark. Attention.
Hey,
This is where you
can I
empty
get
your
your
canister when you're
attention?
fully loaded.
Nice.
We're sending in the drop pod. Head for LZ. Drop pod
Seems like these guys aren't
departing
expecting
in
a
-5 minutes.
direct drill to the drop pod.
Rock and stone in the heart. By the beard.
I would probably not oblige.
Never felt better.
Lloyd is up.
Go, go, go. Pesticide coming. Let's shoot it.
You know, friendly fire isn't actually friendly.
Red sugar.
Eat it.
Sweet Tooth's the best perk.
Follow me.
Okay. Calm down, fellas. See, I'm definitely going to break off from this group after this. I'll buy him a drink, but
4 minutes.
yeah. I mean, I don't think co-op is the best way to showcase things. Actually, it turns out,
Cargo.
which doesn't inherently surprise me. I mean, I've been doing it solo the entire time, but that's what sort of gave me the doubt. It's like, should I like actually try doing this with other people? And I don't know. I mean, this was pretty neutral. It's probably just better if I have more freedom. You know, no chance of people getting in the way. That's all I really felt. I didn't feel like I had more stuff to kill, which is ideally what would be the result. But obviously, I have, you know, there's a lot of competent players. So that wasn't really the case. So I guess the question I need to think about is this going to turn into a build showcase? So is this build that I'm using right now, would this be using a build showcase future? Because this sort of confirms it. I don't think so. I think it's sort of going to stay this way.
Over here by the market boy.
Okay.
Explosives, fine. And here are Troy Joy eliminated. Killer be killed.
Let there be light. Marker up. Prickly.
Drop
Nice.
pod departing in T-2 minutes.
Okay.
Better hurry.
Oh.
The mule is secured. Initiating launch sequence. Deeper Galactic thanks you for your good work. Drop pod will leave with or without you.
Ah.
Attacking me.
Hey, I'm not here, mate.
The base DPS against big targets as well is really not great. It's only okay once you freeze them. I'd say big HP targets are not this thing's specialty, unless they're sort of naturally vulnerable to certain things. Like I think Dreadnoughts is actually going to be fine. But like Praetorians and Pressers, and then probably Wardens as well, I'd imagine. Probably not going to be great. Wasn't great against the infected Praetorians either. We'll see. Oh, well, probably not. I mean, the next thing we're going to do is an elimination. Hopefully, one with some decent warning. Anyway, next step is to buy these ads a drink and then say goodbye to them, I guess. As always, my signature, Burning Love. Hope they catch on.
noise. Skull!
I'm not sure they are. I don't think they care.
Get on board the drop pod, team.
Oh well.
Ready.
Right. Okay. Things that we learned from that mission. Nothing in particular. That Spitballer thing was weird. It didn't feel great against the Spitballer or the Menace. That's the strange thing. It's not actually great at damaging things with lots of health at all. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Right, I was looking at eliminations. Oh, okay. Now that's not. I would imagine that's going to be bad. Okay, I'm going to be straight up with you. It's probably going to be bad for Ice Storm because of the way the enemies work.
Locked in. Time to board to drop.
So I want to push it to the limits. But it was interesting. It's like those high HP targets really aren't. They're just not going down. This is for trash and HVTs, and those guys said that. They never said it was for high HP targets. So I'll give them that. And everything has its weaknesses, as I've talked about. Nothing's fully self-sufficient. So, although earlier I sort of talked about a choice between should you use it on trash and high HP targets, or HVTs and high HP targets, or any combination. I don't think there's as much choice here. I think if you just use it for trash and HVTs, and for freezing high value targets, high HP targets, then you're going to stay relatively efficient. Actually using it to do DPS against high HP targets though, not good. Except, maybe if you're doing elimination, you don't really have a choice. So, let's see how well it works here. But then again, I talked about HVTs like spreaders and spitters that usually stay on walls. It was really just the Stingtails that I've been sort of finding it really good against. But Trash Clear is its specialty, which is the Cryo Cannon's usual specialty, frankly. It's just more independent, and that's true. It's there's still more weaknesses in that because we have a more condensed ammo pool that we can really only use against those kind of targets. It means that we can't use it as much to actually focus on freezing bigger targets that actually need to be finished off. We kind of just have to use it against this stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of flexibility, but not as much leeway. And you're also less efficient at freezing those bigger targets. We handled that elite guard just fine, in my opinion. And you see, the amount of ammo we've used here at this point in the mission is not savoury for me. It's a little bit disappointing, actually.
Drone, get to work.
Okay.
Explosives flying. Damn flares need an upgrade. I got the Praetorian.
Yeah, using half your ammo before even starting a Dreadnought fight is a little bit upsetting. And frankly, I was going to mention how you can mediate your sort of usage of ammo against trash with like drills and satchels and things, but the thing is, with most other builds, I'm forcing myself to do that. In this case, I feel the need to do that so that I don't run out of ammo, and that's weird.
I called for Molly. Loot bug pie. Red sugar. Kill or be killed.
Okay, I mean, I don't really see what else to do other than just kill that first and then jump into the fight.
Cripes! That thing almost ate my pickaxe!
Normal Dreadnought is actually
This is a big one.
good, I think.
Explosives, flies!
Okay. Decent damage, decent damage. Oh. Yeah, not going to have much time while it's frozen to do much with the Kraken itself. I mean, that I assume, to be honest.
And goddamn overheating! Still much better now.
Alright, this cold meter just went away. Just like that. Pretty annoying.
I'm gonna kill you all! Rubbish equipment! Thing's about to go boom! I ordered a resupply!
Nitro's been withdrawn and supply pod is inbound.
The resupply is here! Out of ammo!
I think we've used proportionally a lot more ammo on the Kraken than you can see. And one thing that I know that you can do with that that clean build I've showcased previously, that you can freeze a Dreadnought before losing pressure.
I'm taking some of the ammo!
In this case, we can't even do that, so what are the chances we're going to get any time to actually apply some good DPS with the Kraken itself? I would say 0. We got a little bit, but good amount is probably just not going to happen. But that was still fine, I'd say. A little bit less, how we say, complicated than other ways of using a cryo cannon against Dreadnoughts solo. At least it did, like, it can just do the work. I'll give it that. Was that an actual ambush? Or pressure wave? Or what? I don't know. What I've been waiting for doesn't look like it's happening.
Ready to kill some more crepes!
Happening. Ooh. Ooh. Looking for that. Ah, I see. Oh, there's 2 of them. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's many. There's many of them.
Die like your mother dead! Oh, I needed that!
Okay. Yeah. I have no idea what to make of this.
Molly, over here! No.
Okay. Do I want to satchel these guys, or do I want to actually do them properly?
Bring it.
Do it properly.
Bring the pain!
See, that was efficient. Although the experience isn't particularly consistent.
Ready to
That much
blow.
is obvious. So I can't really hold against it, but these elites are pretty consuming, ammo consuming as well.
Go lie down forever! Super. Let's get the minerals. Flares are recharging! Resupply ordered!
Roger that. Supplies are coming.
Felt better!
So at least know that this isn't going to be normal Dreadnought. I mean, ideally, we actually get all 3 for the purposes of the video.
Time
That
to
is
restock!
not for me
You got looted.
personally.
Restart Conserve your bullets! They gone!
Twins. Okay,
Watch
twins.
out!
Fine.
Dreadnought incoming! Focus fire here!
That wasn't that impressive, to be honest. That was also pretty embarrassing for me to get hit by that.
This never gets old! It's overheated! Explosives, flies!
We're doing alright with our cumulative hit, which is normal. That's normal for Driller. I'd say it's normal for everyone except Gunner that you tend to combo that bit.
Take care of this!
I saw that coming. There's no idea that's going to happen. I probably could have avoided it, but
Same way machine up the building. Bosco, you're the best. Yeah, give me some sugar. Move your tin ass over here. Hurry, please.
okay. What?
It's overheated. Eat it. Explosives, flies. Got no flares ready. It's overheated. Obelisk is dead. Dead, dead, dead.
Okay, that was... Oh, I did go down 2 times. They were pretty embarrassing, but once again,
Yeah.
that was a skill issue, not build related.
I called for the mule.
As is often the case with me. I'm not going to blame my Storm for that.
Leech down.
Oh, I think he's alone. Oh. Oh, not alone.
Explosives, flies.
I can tell you one thing, I'm not going to bring the tutorial. Yes, it's dead. Ooh. Whoa. I actually didn't know the Praetorians could do that. I thought that was just the guards. Well, got 1 life to use now. Oh.
Thanks, Bosco.
I'm not going to hold it against... There are builds that handle elite enemies well. But I'm not going to hold it against Ice Storm that it can't. I don't
Getting
think.
supplies. I needed that.
Might not be the fairest
Oopsie.
assessment. Or route to assessment. Route to verdict.
Can't carry anymore.
Ooh, Blood Nexus. Damn it.
I'm cutting down trade.
Oh, this is either going to be a Hive Guard or a normal Dreadnought.
Supply drop has been ordered.
Either one is fine
On the
with me,
way.
personally. Oh, Jesus.
Skull Crusher!
Elite Grabber.
Have to wait for flare recharge. Resupply pod is here. Everybody collect ammunition. You ugly son of a bitch! Loot bug down.
There was an elite acid spitter. I don't know where it went. Oh well. Okay, normal one.
We've got company!
Secondary objective completed.
I don't know if it's
Fine
really
job.
worth showing in that case, but oh well.
Explosives, nice.
Literally. Try and actually get some good damage while frozen. Great. Did interrupt his attack actually.
People really need to provide some better equipment.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Rubbish equipment. Explosives, nice. We order supply drop like really soon.
Okay.
Overheated.
Hi.
Well done.
Okay. It's
Dreadnought threat eliminated.
that's over.
Activate the transponder on them.
So what we can glean from that is it's fine against dreadnoughts.
Drop pod
Perfectly
arrived.
fine.
Mule is returning to LZ.
Adequate. The word I would use.
Drop pod departing in T
no major
minus 5
hiccups.
minutes.
Pretty annoying that you can't really get the right amount of freezing power to actually do some good damage.
Hate to wait for flare.
But it wasn't detrimental either.
Let's clear them out.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm gonna sort of, I might still cut some bits of combat if it seems appropriate, but in general, I'm gonna skip to the actual verdict. So, Ice Storm, is it good or is it bad? Well, unfortunately, it's neutral, which seems like a bit of a cop out for the first sort of episode of this type of video. But it is genuinely the only conclusion I can come to personally. I'm leaning more towards good, but I think when I explain what neutral really means in this context, I think you'll agree with me more. So, in terms of what Ice Storm offers, it offers much more independent killing of trash and high-value targets, as well as enforcing a playstyle that is, on average, more self-sufficient and more direct, I suppose. It's very simplistic. These are sort of benefits, and they are strong benefits. It does these things very well. Unfortunately, I do not think what it provides is wholly unique to the cryo cannon. Aside from the fact that it does it itself, the cryo cannon is still normally very good at cleaning up trash and high value targets, and even high HP targets when combined with other things. Ice Storm is really providing self-sufficiency, but in a fairly compressed zone of enemies. It's really just ground-based trash and high-value targets, not really anything else. You can still use it to some extent to freeze high HP targets like Praetorians and Spitballers and Brood Nexuses, and that's okay. But in general, it's sort of condensing what we can do down to a more specific area, although I would say it does excel in that area better than usual, to a certain extent. And I also think the lack of ability to deal with airborne targets is also very, very risky. It's taking away something that the cryo cannon is usually fairly good at, and sort of completely eliminating it, really. So it has significant weaknesses, it has significant strengths. It doesn't completely take away the fact that you need to factor in your secondary quite heavily. In fact, I'd say more so. This is you do not become completely dependent on your cryo cannon. I would say it's almost the other way around. It becomes more like a normal weapon where it's just fulfilling a role in your arsenal, and so it's a secondary. And you're not really pairing the two together that much, although you still do. On the whole, though, I'd say it offers enough differences and enough specific things that it's good at to be worth trying out. And that's really what neutral means. Good would be a recommendation. Bad would be a discouragement, or a boycott would be technically the correct term. Neutral means I think you should try it. I think it is worth trying. I think it's worth being in the game. All it means is it's not perfect, and I'm not truly saying that it's a great, straightforward upgrade to the weapon. That's what neutral means. So try Ice Storm. It's got something to say. Just know it's not the best thing in the world. And that's kind of where this ends. If there's any more overclocks that you want me to cover in this manner, please let me know. I've definitely got my own ideas, but I'd still be willing to take any kind of feedback, including feedback about the video itself. Absolutely feel free. I welcome it wholeheartedly. So if you did enjoy, please make sure to, if you like, even respond with your own verdict on Ice Storm. If you think there's something that I've really missed, that is perfectly fine as well. But if you enjoyed this, please make sure to like, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and if you want to stay up to date with all Deep Rock news about the game itself. There was a as of recording this, there was news on the board game, but that's not what we do. It feels kind of weird. I definitely could do that, but if you want to stay up to date with everything to do with the game itself, Deep Rock Galactic, then feel free to subscribe and click the bell. You don't have to. I don't like saying that stuff, but it helps, and we want to be able to do this. And we want a good reason to do this. So, either way, thanks for watching, and take care. I'll see you next time.